Hello students and a very warm welcome to all of you. Every few years, our country India goes through something truly massive, the world's largest election. It's a huge deal. But here's a thought, does being the biggest automatically mean we are the most democratic? That's the really important question we're going to explore together in this explainer.
All right, let's get started. Before we can even begin to talk about India's elections, we need a yardstick, right? We need some way to measure them. So let's think about this for a moment. How can we actually judge if an election is truly democratic? What are the basic things, the absolute must-haves for an election to be fair?
Okay, so this here is our basic checklist. It's a really simple but very powerful way to see if an election is on the right track. Let's go through it. First off, everyone should have one vote, and every single vote must have the same value. Simple, right? Second, there have to be real choices. Parties and candidates must be free to contest. Third, the elections need to happen regularly, like clockwork, not just whenever the government feels like it. Fourth, and this is a big one, the candidate that people actually prefer should be the one who gets elected. And finally, the whole thing, the entire process, has to be conducted in a free and fair manner. So, we're going to keep these 5 points in mind as we look at India's elections.
So to figure out if our elections are fair, we have to start with the umpire, the referee of the game. And in India, that referee is a very important body called the Election Commission of India.
So what is the Election Commission of India, or the ECI as we call it? Well, it's the body that runs the whole show. I mean everything, from deciding when elections will happen all the way to announcing who won. But here's the most important thing you need to remember about the ECI. It is independent. It doesn't work for the government. Think of it this way. It has the same kind of independence that our courts and judges have, and that's what gives it the power to be a neutral umpire.
So you might be wondering, where does the Election Commission get all this power and independence from? Well, it's all in how it's set up. The President of India appoints the head, who is called the Chief Election Commissioner. But, and this is the crucial part, once that person is appointed, they are not answerable to the president or the government anymore. It's almost impossible for the party in power to just remove them if they don't like a decision. And get this, during election time, all the government officers who are on election duty, they work under the control of the EC, not the government. They take orders from the Election Commission. This is how we make sure the game is played fairly.
And here's a perfect real-life example of that power in action. Look at this newspaper headline, EC shoots down HM advice on poll reforms. This means the Election Commission actually rejected advice from the Home Minister of the country. It's a fantastic example that shows the EC is not afraid to stand up to even the most powerful people in the government to make sure elections are fair.
All right, so we've established that we have a strong, independent umpire. That's a great start. But what about the people? Do they actually believe in the process? You see, another way to check the health of a democracy is to see how many people are actually taking part in it.
Now have a look at this chart. It tells a really interesting story. Voter turnout just means the percentage of people who can vote, who actually show up and vote. And what we see is that in many established democracies, like the United Kingdom, fewer and fewer people are voting over the years. But in India, the number has either stayed steady or has actually gone up. This is a really positive sign. It tells us that people in India have a lot of faith in the power of their vote.
And if we look even closer, the picture becomes even clearer. This chart breaks down voter turnout by different social groups. And look at this. In India, people from disadvantaged communities, the poor and the marginalized, often vote in higher numbers than the so-called privileged classes. This is really quite remarkable. It shows that for many, elections are seen as a way to demand dignity and make their voices heard, a real chance to change their lives.
And this line here sums it up perfectly. They also feel that their vote matters in the way things are run in the country. This is the core belief. The ordinary person in India feels that elections are important. They believe that their one vote can put pressure on political parties to listen to them. It shows a deep-rooted faith that their vote really, truly matters.
Okay, so we have an independent umpire, and we have enthusiastic people participating. What's the third big test for a healthy democracy? Well, it's all about what happens after the votes are counted and the results are out.
And this is maybe one of the most important tests. What happens when the party in power loses an election? In India, the losing party almost always accepts the result as the people's verdict. Think about it. Ruling parties, powerful ones, at both the national and the state level, lose elections all the time. And what happens? They step down. Peacefully. This peaceful handover of power is a really strong sign of a mature democracy.
Let's take a real case to understand this. Back in 1987, in the state of Haryana, the Congress Party was in power.
But in the election that year, an opposition leader named Davy Lal led a huge movement, and his party won a massive victory, 76 out of 90 seats. So what happened? Did the ruling party refuse to leave? No. The sitting chief minister from the Congress party resigned, and Davy Lal became the new chief minister. Just like that, a smooth and peaceful change, all because of the people's vote.
Okay, so far we've talked about a lot of the strengths of our election system. But for us to have a truly honest discussion, we also need to look at the other side of the coin. Our system is not perfect, and Indian elections face some very, very serious challenges that we must talk about.
These two cartoons here do a great job of showing us some of these problems. The one on the left, it shows that in the end, the voter has the final say, reminding the politician that they can be kicked out. But the cartoon on the right points to a different problem, how sometimes big, unrealistic promises are used to attract voters, which isn't always a healthy thing for a democracy.
So, what are these big challenges? Let's list them out. Sometimes voter lists are not accurate. They might have false names, or genuine voters might find their names are missing. Then there's the problem of the ruling parties sometimes misusing government facilities during their campaign. A massive challenge is the huge amount of money that is spent, which gives rich candidates a big, unfair advantage. In some places, sadly, there is still intimidation of voters, and even attempts to rig the voting. And perhaps one of the most worrying things is that many candidates with serious criminal cases against them are able to stand for elections. These are all serious issues we need to face.
So, we've seen the good and we've seen the bad. Where does that leave us? What's the final verdict? Let's try to put it all together and form a balanced picture.
This table really helps us summarize everything we've talked about. On the one hand, our strengths are very clear. We have an independent and powerful election commission, lots of people participate with great faith, and everyone accepts the verdict peacefully. But on the other hand, the challenges are also very real. The excessive use of money, the misuse of government machinery, and candidates with criminal backgrounds.
So what's the bottom line? It's this. Yes, our elections have limitations and serious problems that we need to fix. But, and this is the important part, the basic outcome of an election in India still reflects what the people want. The fundamental verdict of the people is still respected.
And that leaves us with one final, and I think most important question. A question for you to think about long after this is over. Knowing everything we've discussed, the good and the bad, what is the role of an ordinary citizen? What is your role? How can we, as citizens, help demand the changes that will make our democracy even stronger, even fairer? That's something for all of us to think about. Thank you for listening.